Welcome to scope or not to scope your procedures. Hey, I'm Eric, and I keep a list. I keep a list of potential video topics. So whenever somebody like you guys are suggesting something, asking for something in the comments, I put it down on my list, and then I work the list, and some topics needs a lot of preparation, other topics or I can just record, and some topics, kind of need an angle to become an interesting video. And one of the topics I have had on the list for quite a while now is procedure scoping, but I kind of needed an angle, a story to do this video. And then earlier today, we had a very strange error at a customer, and I was looking into this, found the bug, fixed it, and thought, but if we have actually done proper procedural scoping, proper scoping on our procedures, this would never have become a bug. So that's actually a great angle. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So here is Visual Studio Code, and if I go in here and I create myself a procedure, proc1, you can see I just created this, and there's no references and nothing to it, but this means that I have not written anything in front of this, and by default that means that it's public. So no matter who, either myself, so if I go in here, and then I can of course from let's do procedure, let's call this one test. So this is the where we test. I can call proc1. If I go and create another code unit here, more, and I can create a function in here that's called more, and I'll create let's call it proc. That's the code unit. Let's call procedures. Now I can call proc.proc1 from here. So from within my extension, I can call into the function in my code unit. If I were, and I'm not going to do this here, but if this were another extension, as long as I had created a dependency to the extension that owns that holds the code unit, I would be able to do this. So this is a public procedure, meaning that everybody can use it. So if it's available, everybody can use it. And let me show you the error we had. So let's create another function. Let's create a function called prepare, and we'll create a function called process, perhaps, and let's create another one called subprocess, and then we can create one called cleanup, or not cleanup, that's fine. Process and subprocess, that's fine. And let's pretend that we have a var section. We'll put up here, TMP is a customer records temporary. Actually, let's get rid of prepare. We don't need that to make the point here. So here's the bug. That in here we did a delete all, which is great, and in here we did something like insert, and normally how process would be that was something like if you know, let's do something else. Just this doesn't really matter. I'll create a quick loop here that if c dot finds, hang on guys, I can't hit the keyboard right now. Find set, then, you know, repeat sub process until c next equals 0. Right. So we have a process function that deletes everything, and then in the temporary table, and then we do something stuff that calls sub process, and sub process is doing something to the global variable inside the code unit, which is fine. And the way to use this is, of course, to call the process function. The bug was that at some point somebody from outside decided to call subprocess, and that worked perfectly on one instant, but then they put this into another loop, so suddenly they got strange errors on the insert because this other loop didn't actually go in and do the delete all. And the bug in my view was that subprocess is right now designed that it should never be called from outside the realm of the code unit we're in. And how do you do that? You do that by declaring that procedure local. So now this procedure can only be called from in here. So if we go up on the test run again and say local, we can see now we got an error up here saying in our other code unit that it's inaccessible to this protection level, meaning that we are only allowed now to use the local procedure within. Let me get rid of this one a second here. We're only allowed to use sub process inside this code unit. Maybe so now we have two levels of scoping. So we have a local level, so you're within the object that you're working, and if you're creating procedures that should not be available from the outside, then you should mark them local. Actually, there's a strange thing where you can mark them protected, and it's not documented anywhere. And protected works the same as local. So if we say this one is protected, then we'll also get an error over here saying that it's inaccessible. But that's kind of weird because protected is also used for variables that should be available. Yeah. So this is very undocumented, and somebody from Microsoft is looking. Let me know in the comments below what the purpose is of marking a procedure protected in this case, or perhaps update your documentation. Sorry. Anyway, so if let's go back and call this local. But what about the so we have local only within the object, right? And we have global, which is public, everybody, yourself and multiple layers, and other extension can use this. But we also have one more scope, and I think that one is also quite interesting and should be used more. And that is called internal. So we can try with this one again and say internal, and we can see that this one is still happy. So internal means that this procedure, I confused myself. Internal means that this should only be available from within this app. So anywhere in this app, I can use these procedures. But if somebody else is making a dependency to my app, this function will not be available. These two in this case will not be available because they are marked internal. So in reality, this comes down to as soon as you're in this world of shared code, of shared function, not necessarily shared code, but at least shared functionality, you have to think about what scope you are giving your things. Should it be available to use? So if you have a code unit with a million functions, but there's actually only 3 functions that should ever be called from outside, then the rest of them should be marked local or perhaps internal, and then there's only those 3 that are public. So if I go and make a dependency on your app, I don't see a million functions. I see those 3 functions that I can use, that the only ones that make sense for me to use. So you're helping yourself, you're helping others by actually scoping things the right way. And you're probably cleverer than I am in that. So you won't have funky errors like what we encountered here, but you can also avoid errors like this by actually scoping things the right way. So I think that's it's not bad. 11 minutes. That's procedure scoping, and I know that this is something that I need to do more than I have been, because old habits die hard, and we didn't have scoping like this in versions from yesteryears, and it's like mechanical. You just type procedure without thinking about it. Where in other languages like C#, everything is local by default, and you have to write public in front of them or another scope to actually give them more than just a local scope. But AL is global by default, because historically that was the only scope there were. Then in nav at some point we got local, and now we have several. So there you have it. Procedure scoping, to scope or not to scope? I would say to scope. Have a lovely day. I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye.